My family and my culture has had a major influence on who I am today. You see, I'm first-generation American, which means that from the outside looking in, absent of any knowledge of my background, non-Blacks typically assume that my roots are of African-American origin, that my forefathers and mothers picked cotton somewhere in the deep South. But that is not my story. You see, my parents were born in a country that is normally referred to as the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. They were both born in Haiti. When you grow up in a home where English is not the first language and the domestic cultural norms do not apply, you don't think of yourself as American. I've always proudly referred to myself as Haitian, although my birth certificate may beg to differ. Being Haitian, I've always known that I come from a brave and bold people that established the world's first independent Black republic. And that is the moniker that I wish were attached to my beautiful island nation. Haiti has a very rich history. That history gives us a sense of ownership over our being, over who we are, and that has resonated with me in the way that I engage in the world. As a 17-year-old deciding what it is I wanted to do with my life as it relates to college and university, I had always known that my family's story was a little different. In a frame above our mantle in my childhood home hung a black and white class photo. From the age of 5, I can remember hearing the tales of my late grandfather, the trailblazer. In the picture, there are about 100 men, but my grandfather always stood out. You see, he was the only Black face in a sea of white ones. He immigrated from Haiti to Michigan in the early 1950s to pursue a degree in agronomy at Michigan State College, where he was the only Black man in his program. Nothing I could go through today could come close to what he did so long ago. And this helps to drive me to fight to be represented in spaces where I may not be welcome. I now have a career that I enjoy, that I didn't even know existed as a child. My grandfather's legacy has given me the resilience to stay the course in an industry that I love, even when I look around and don't see many people that look like me. When I think of my grandfather's experience, I see ownership. He chose to own his narrative and in turn to own his being. Not only did he choose to come to the United States at the height of segregation and racial inequity, he chose to do so as a 45-year-old married father of 7 daughters. There was somewhat of an audacity at his part to think that he could leave Haiti and go to Michigan. And to be honest, why not? I've always had this story in the back of my mind as a driving force to make sure I had a voice and to make sure that I made it my business not to let people quiet me or silence me in rooms where I felt I should be speaking. Not only as a Black woman, but as the child of immigrants, I've always had this feeling that I don't quite belong here. It's a feeling that I happen to have broken through and made my way here, and maybe I'm not the person that's supposed to be here. Whenever I start feeling this way, like an outsider, or when someone treats me with less respect than I think they should because of the color of my skin or my gender, I think back to my grandfather and his bold choice to educate himself in a country that made it clear that he was not welcome. He was so brave. It makes me wonder how much he dealt with as the only Black man in his class. Nothing, absolutely nothing I could go through today could come close. And this helps to drive me to fight to be represented in spaces where I may not be welcome. Thank you.